Hello everyone, welcome to Bake It by the Numbers. I'm here to do another ultimate review. As promised, I have gotten around to reviewing the Kosas Cloud Set Baked Setting and Smoothing Talc-Free Vegan Powder. Feels like names just get longer and longer nowadays, but this is Kosas Cloud Set Powder. And I'm here to compare it primarily to the LYS Setting Powder to help you figure out which one may be best for your interest. So to start off with, I'll talk about the case a little bit and kind of the packaging and what you're getting for your dollar. It's just a plastic case, but it does have kind of a thicker, it helps if you try to open the right side of it, a thickery, pillowy top. If you get this product new, you're going to see that it actually comes considerably into the top portion of the case. I actually kind of like that because it gives you a lot of access to the product unless you see how much you have left. But there were some complaints, and I have seen other influencers complain about the product breakup or shifting or some sort of like powder avalanche. It's caused some problems with them being able to use their product. That didn't happen with mine, so it's not my experience. That is something to consider, is that it is not really protected terribly much in the base. Now they do have two sizes available. They do have the mini, which I have here. This is 1/10 of an ounce or 3 grams. The standard size is 1/3 of an ounce or roughly 9.5 grams. I prefer to use a puff for when I'm applying powder, but with this particular product, I think the brush gave you a little bit more even light coverage and was a little bit more flattering for the face. With the puff, I was getting such high coverage that I was actually seeing the powder itself on my skin. So overall, I find the compact accessible and easy to use, so fantastic. Now, it is a pore blurring primer, so it should be mattifying on the skin, and alone, I didn't see it terribly much. I received it at about a 6. On a scale of 10, which is above average but not exceptional. And then with foundation, it performed a little bit better, most likely due to the compounds in foundation. I give it a 7. Now, comparing that to the LYS, I gave it a point higher in each category. So the LYS got a 7 and an 8. I just found that the pore blurring effect was a little bit more pronounced, and the reason I believe is just I felt that their formula is a little bit more smoothing and a little bit more mattifying, whereas this one has a lot more pigment and provides a little bit more coverage. So the Kosas overall is just not as forgiving with a heavy application. Now for the smoothness, I actually found that both products were about the same in terms of how finely they were milled. They were both smooth and easy to use. I gave them both an 8. I will say, however, that the Kosas is a smidgen more sensitive to moisture as I look at it, and there's no way the camera's gonna be able to pick it up, but the top is not as smooth as it was previously, and I do believe that's just from the moisture content of it sitting open on my counter in my bathroom, where it's actually clumped in some very, very small places. And again, it hasn't impacted the utility of the product at all, but it is something to keep in mind since most of us aren't beauty reviewers and we don't have a makeup room and we are doing it in our bathroom. That is something to keep in mind, as it does seem to be a little bit sensitive to the moisture in the air. And for compaction, I gave it a 4. That means that it's actually a little bit looser. There's a little bit of dust, there's a little bit of kick up. That's fine from a pressed powder. It's something that I actually expect to a certain extent. I think it's a great balance. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a 4. It's still very, very essential with not being very, very hard packed and not being a true loose powder. As far as scent and odor is concerned, I gave it a 0 in both categories. It's completely odorless, completely scentless. I've had this product for approximately 6 months and it hasn't picked up any odors, even with it being in my bathroom. So it's absolutely fantastic in that regard, especially if you're sensitive to any sort of addition to the products. But Kosas in general is a good brand for that if you are sensitive to added fragrances and chemicals. Now, the coverage is where I really start to have a problem with this product, because up until now, it's actually performed really well. It's just too dark. So this is the shade Breezy, which is the second lightest shade. It's also a neutral or potentially for warmer undertones. And I'm actually going to put it on under my eyes as well as over my face, so you can kind of see what it's done to my skin. And again, so, sometimes you don't really necessarily see, what the camera picks up. And I'm obviously like putting on a pretty heavy layer so you can see it, and I am actually wearing it already. But just what I've observed is that though it is mattifying, it's actually making my skin look a little bit darker. And it's not exactly what I want. So it doesn't have a yellow base, which a lot of people consider brightening, and this particular shade doesn't have a pink base, which would be better for brightening for a cooler tone skin tone. They do have a lighter shade Airy, which would be better for me, probably, but I'm actually a little bit put off enough by the fact that there's so much pigmentation in here. Your shade actually matters in terms of a setting powder. Like, I actually would prefer something to be translucent if I'm going to go through all the trouble of color matching my foundation. I would like not to have my setting powder throw that off, and it is a little bit frustrating because my foundation matches pretty well to then use this powder and it is instantly and obviously not a match for my skin. Even if I were to go up a shade lighter, because this is so pigmented, I'm actually considering the fact that it wouldn't be a perfect match. It would just not be an obvious unmatch, because they do only have 10 shades. And I guess that's probably my bad, where I should have realized, hey, if there's 10 shades of this product, it's probably not as translucent as I think. However, that being said, even if I were to buy the lightest shade, it wouldn't be able to brighten my under eyes because it would be exactly my complexion color. So it's just not the right product for me. Although I am at the lighter end of the, sort of skin complexion spectrum, there are definitely people with paler skin, even more pale than I am. So I'm curious, maybe if you have a darker complexion, if you've had some of the same experiences where the darkest shade wasn't dark enough. Because I could definitely see that being an issue in a product that only has 10 in its shade range. Overall, I gave it a 4 for its tintedness, and that's not good or bad. That's just on a scale of 1 to 10, how tinted is this product, and 4 is like definitely well within what I would expect for a coverage level, as opposed to something that's like a tinted moisturizer or a sheer product to be less than that. So because of that, it's just not my favorite, and it's not what I'm looking for in a setting powder, although there are plenty of people who want their setting powder to give them a little extra coverage. Moving on to luminosity, I gave it a 1. Again, it's still on a scale of 10. 1 just means it's a very natural matte finish. I gave the LYS, for reference, a 0, which is a true matte finish, and this is 1, which is natural. I don't think there's a lot of difference between a 0 and a 1. On a scale of 1 to 10, think about what that difference means. It's not actually a lot. Most products, even mattifying products, are probably still around the 1 to 2 range. So I think the 1 for that natural matte finish is absolutely fantastic, and I'm not displeased with this product in that way anymore. I did give it 5 to 6 hours for longevity, which is good for this type of product. Now I know for a foundation or another product like a stain or a smudge-proof eyeliner, 5 to 6 hours would not be very good, but think about what you're getting. You're getting a pressed setting powder. It's going to be the first thing to come off your skin, and especially if you're like me and you have oily skin, it does have a pretty pronounced effect. That'll go throughout my workday until I get home and I can touch it up. So overall, I'm pleased with that, and I think it did outperform the LYS in that category. I only estimated LYS gave me about 3 hours of longevity. By the time that I got home, it was completely gone. With both these products, I actually ended up with a really pretty finish by the end of the day, where the setting powder had worn off and any sort of cakiness or powdery appearance was gone, and I was just left with my makeup looking really fresh. So I did love both products. I will say though, the Kosas outperformed it and just lasts a little bit longer. They are both relatively available. You can find Kosas at Sephora, Amazon, Revolve, and of course its own brand site. It's a clean and vegan brand, so it appeals to a lot of different people who are looking for those kind of keywords. And then the cost per ounce. Now, the cost per ounce for the standard size is $106.60 per ounce. And that seems a little bit expensive, but it is actually really what I would consider to be par for the course. I compared it to a lot of products that were more expensive and several products that were more inexpensive. The LYS actually happens to be one of those more inexpensive brands. So overall, my review of this product is really going to come down to what is it doing that another setting powder could not provide? And the answer to that is really almost exclusively coverage and longevity. I think it does pretty well in the coverage department. It's doing average in longevity, and I think if you can find your shade and you want a setting powder with a little bit of coverage, then this is a great product. However, since I'm actually really displeased with the color and the shade and the effect it has on me, it's darker than my natural skin and it shows. It's not brightening, and it honestly makes me look dingy. and this is like I said, this is the second light of shade. I'm actually not going to buy it again. Even though they do have the lighter shade, as I pointed out, since it's too light for my it's still too dark for my under eyes, which is where I want my setting powder, I'm not going to be rebuying it. Overall, and I know this is like the big number, I gave it a 7 out of 10, which is a very good product, and I'm very pleased with it. But comparing it to the LYS Triple Fix, I gave that product an 8. That product is just a little bit better because it has a true sheer coverage. It is significantly cheaper per ounce, and it actually has a little bit of a brightening effect instead of making my skin look more dull. So although it wasn't my favorite, I didn't buy the LYS either. Kosas didn't win my heart out. I think it's just slightly worse in this case. That being said, if you do like the Cloud Set powder, I do understand. It is a very good powder. Up next, I am going to probably move on to, I haven't purchased it yet, but I've been thinking about trying the Huda Pressed powder. I know that one came out a couple months ago and people were raving about it. Some people have said it has a little bit too much of a radiant finish, which is why I didn't try it this time around, but I think I really want to go for that pink cherry blossom shade just to see what that does on my very pink skin. But thank you so much for watching. Again, I love doing these reviews. Let me know if there's something that I'm missing, like something you really want me to tackle and kind of talk about how the product performs. And I will see you guys next time around. Thanks. Bye.